Vitamscha mantra guru ajokta shiga guru ganta charane age kariya bandhan bancha kalpatrubhya shakapashana Vasu Jana Shalakaya Chokru Unmalitam Jana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutavashana Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tamana Stam Chasam Devi Gurvam Pacham Nirim Shesha Shanu Prashtata Dechatam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Sri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Shiva Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Amra we were hearing we were hearing that Sri Vishwarup took sannyas, and it pained so much the house of Jagannath Mishra. Sachinandan fell unconscious. All the devotees headed by Advaita Acharya cried profusely. And Sri Jagannath Mishra, he looked at Sachinandan Sri Gaudhari, and he said that this boy, if he studies all the Shastras, he'll also become Jnanavan, and in that way he'll lose interest in material life. So from that point onwards, Sri Jagannath Mishra, he did not permit Sachinanda to study. Now, already Sachinanda had begun studying. Some chapters previously, Srila Vrindavan Thakur described when the Hati Kada, when Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu was first learning to write the syllables of the Bengali alphabet, and he would practice the sounds ka ka, ga ga, and write the letters, and he would write the names of Sri Krishna, Murali, Mangshi Badan. He would write in this way, and it enchanted everybody. But so already at home he was studying, learning, reading and writing. So Jagannath Mishra said, no more. You're just going to stay at home and I'll provide whatever you want. So then Sri Sachinandan, he became again mischievous, although after Vishwarup Sannyasi described, he became very studious and was an ideal child. But then when he was not allowed to study, he became mischievous again. And it's described how with his friends they would put a blanket on and they would plunder the banana gardens of various Navadip householders. And when the householder would see the bull, he would call for help, and by that time they would run away. And sometimes they would tie the doors from the outside so that people couldn't go and relieve themselves during the night. So all types of mischief he got up to. So we'll describe this specific incident. Vrindavan Thakur is explaining in the 7th chapter, Adikonda, Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. Ei boro nigudha kotha shuno ek mone Krishna Bhakti Siddhi hoy iha shrabone. He's explaining that Ei boro nigudha kotha, this very confidential description, which is shuno ek mone, you listen to this with attention. Krishna Bhakti Siddhi hoy, Krishna Bhakti Siddhi hoy, iha shrabone. Just by hearing this, you get perfection in Krishna Bhakti. So, let's hear it. So Jagannath Mishra, he'd been called away for some work, and so he wasn't at home. And Nimai, he climbed up upon the pots that are used for the worship, for the cooking. Not like now in a modern age, we have pots, aluminium, it's not very good, or stainless steel, and we keep them in the kitchen, they're clean. And even the plates, we use the same plates again and again. We wash them. But and this time, they would take on the leaf plate and then just throw it, and it's all biodegradable. There are no plastic bags. So they just throw the leaf plate, and they would cook in clay pots. And it appears that they would use the pot once, cook in the pot, and then discard it, and just make clay pots. So this is an example of, if everybody in the community does that, actually it's possible, you see. But we're not doing that. Everybody in the community lived like that. It could actually be possible. You have someone making the clay pots and they're cooking. We actually should create that. Prabhupada wanted Mayapur particularly to be a place where devotees were self-sufficient and came here to live like that. So Nimai, he climbed up on those pots. And he sat there smiling, and he looked like a golden doll that had been smeared with dark sandalwood paste, because he's Gauranga and he climbed up on the pots that have been used for cooking, and so there's the dark soot around the pot, and so that was brushing against his limbs. So in this way the Gauranga, the golden form of the Lord, was anointed with darkish sandalwood pulp as he sat there on top of the pot smiling. And Sachimata, when she saw that, she was very angry. You could just imagine the Brahminical standard. The sattvic, even now in Hindu Bengali families, the cleanliness standard is very high, especially Vaishnavas, because they're trained in that. Even the Sahajiyas, they have that clean in Bengali society, in the village, Hindus. Very high standard of cleanliness. So can you imagine what it would have been like 500 years ago? How strict they would have been about using only the Lord's utensils for cooking and for puja, and everything cleaned every day. I mean, that was the culture. They were Brahmins, Navadip Brahmins. So you can imagine how upset she was when she came and saw Nimai playing in the place. I mean, we couldn't imagine it now because our rubbish is so disgusting, the plastic bags and all of that stuff. A child playing there, but it's something, in terms of their understanding, it's something like that, because that was there wasn't that terrible rubbish that we have now, would have just been decomposing and leaf plates, and in that area, much more sattvic. But still, that's the only unclean place in the actual whole compound, would have been that place. So he's sitting on top of those pots, and so she was very angry, and she's scolding him. Can you not judge between clean and unclean? Right? That's an interesting. Already that she's scolding him on the basis of Brahminical values. What is that? That in 16th chapter Bhagavad Gita, na saucham na chapi chacharo. The asuras, what is that? I don't know. Yeah. Jana na veru asura. Na saucham na chapi chacharo. They don't know what is clean and unclean. You see that in the West, and they don't wash their hands after eating. So she's scolding him on the basis of a Vaishnava, of a Brahminical value. You don't know the difference between clean and unclean? What sort of a Brahman are you? She's scolding him on the basis of the Brahminical values already. He's so young. This is culture. That you learn from your mother. You learn cleanliness. Prabhu bole, Tor more na disho porite, you're not allowing me to study. Bhadra bhadra murkha bipre, jani be kemate. A murkha bipra means a foolish, murkha vipra means a fool, an uneducated, an uncultured, untrained. Murkha vipra. How can an untrained Brahmin, how can they distinguish between Bhadra Abhadra? Bhadra Abhadra. Murkha Vipra, Janibe Kemate. So he's arguing. He's saying, Bhadra Bhadra, how can an uneducated Brahmin discriminate between the two? You see the way he's arguing? I mean, is that an ordinary child's way of thinking? He's attacking their logic. He's not saying, I want it, I want it. He's only a young child, but he's speaking with such intelligence. Murkha ami na janiye balamandashtan savatra. Murkha ami na janiye balamandashtan. I'm a fool, I don't know the difference between bhalo manda, a good and a bad place. And then he says, Savatra amar ek aditya gyan. He's talking from it starts off that he doesn't know clean and unclean. And now he starts to explain about Advaitavad Siddhanta of monism, that there's no difference between clean and unclean. He says, Savatra amar, I'm everything. Ek aditya gyan, one thing, aditya, without a second. Aditya gyan. It's like very deep philosophical response. Ek aditya gyan. Nama Savatra. And sat there smiling. So this is very amazing that a little child, and he's discussing this elevated philosophy which is very difficult to understand. There's a similar incident in Sri Caitanya-charitamrita. Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami in Adi Lila, chapter 14. He describes there that one time Sri Gauranga was sitting with his friends playing in a courtyard, and Sachimata, she bought some sweets, different types of sweets, and gave to him to eat. And she came back and she saw that he was eating dirt and discarded the sweets and was eating dirt, and so she was very, very angry. And then he also at that time he began to speak Mayavad philosophy. Kai sandesh anna jotek matir bikar. Kai sandesh anna means sweetmeats and sandesh and rice. Jotek matir bikar. They're all transformations of earth. Eho mati, sheho mati, kibed bichar. Eho mati, this is earth. Shehomati, that's earth. Kibed bichar, what is the difference? So Prabhupada goes on to explain that he's speaking the Mayavad philosophy. And Sachimata she was astonished, and she responded by saying, look, it's not all one, because if you take mati and you try to collect water and bring it from the river, you pour the water into the mati, it will just dissolve into mud. So you have to turn the mati into a pot. And in that way you can carry the water. So things have different, it's not all one, things have different uses by nature. As their eternal identity is different. It's not we're all one. And this can be practically applied. And so he said, so why didn't you teach me this philosophy earlier? Now whenever I'm hungry, I'll drink your breast milk. So in this time, in the childhood, in the Balya Bhav, actually. Yeah, we'll hear what Vrindavandas Thakur explains. So he carries on, and he's speaking about now he's in the mood of Dattatreya. Dattatreya. The Lord's incarnation, Dattatreya. And he's speaking this Advaitavad philosophy. Jatamoshtiti, but at the same time he can say it because he's Bhagavan. Jatamoshtiti Shai Sharva Punyashtan Ganga Adi Sharva Tirtha Tahi Adishtan. Jatamoshtiti, wherever I am situated. Shai Sharva Punyashtan. That is all of the holy places. That is the Sarva Punyashtan, is the most sanctified place, wherever I am situated. Ganga Adi, beginning with Ma Ganga, Ganga Adi, Sharva Tirtha, Tahi Adishtan, wherever I am situated, beginning with Ma Ganga, all of the holy places are present. And then he's saying, in any case, these pots, they're used for cooking Lord Vishnu's offerings, so they can't be contaminated at any time. So he's arguing from a different angle. But before he was speaking like, I'm the Supreme Lord, wherever I touch cannot become, there's no possible of me being impure. Whatever I touch immediately becomes purified. Just as the presence of the Ganga and all of the holy places were manifest by my touch, by my presence. Bhalla bhabe, sharva tatta, kohi prabhu hashe, bhalla bhabe. Just like a child would speak about ordinary topics. Just imagine this. A child will speak about things like, are we going to the park this afternoon? What time is Daddy coming? Will we go and do this? Will we go to the temple? I want to chant, I want to dance, I want to see little things, simple things the child says. So in that way he's speaking and he's saying that all of the holy places are present where I am. Whatever I touch becomes pure. There's no conception of Bhadra and Abhadra when I'm present. And just like a little child. Tatapi na bhuje keho tar maya bashe. But they couldn't understand that a Supreme Lord speaking there because tar maya bashe, they're all in illusion. They're an illusion. The Jogmaya, and they're just thinking he's our son, even though he does these amazing things. Prabhu bole, Jodi more na deho porite tar muni nahi jai kahilin tomate tobe. I'll read that again, sorry. Prabhu bole, Jodi more na deho porite, if you don't allow me to study, tobo mui na jai kahilun tomate. Tobo mui na jai. Mui na jai. I will not go. Because Jodi more na deho porita. If you do not allow me to study, I'm not moving from this place. Kahilun tomate, I've said it. I've spoken. Kahilun tomate. I'm not moving from this place unless you allow me to study. So by this time, as is common even now in villages in Bengal, if there's any, because there's a lot of people and everyone's connected, very much networked in a village system. There's never no connection to it, it never becomes empty. People everywhere connected. So as soon as there's some incident, then all ladies, they gather around, ladies. So by this time all the Griha Boduda, the Grihinis, the housewives of the Brahmins, the Brahmanis had gathered around. And then they're saying to Sachi Mata, why are you not letting your son why are you not allowing your son to study? You know, he wants to study. You're so fortunate. Most children, it's very painful to get them to study. But he wants to study. Kon shatru hena bhuti dilo ba tomare gore murka kori putra raki bare tare. What enemy has given you this intelligence to keep your son at home like a fool? So then they said that you should, we agree totally with your protest, Nimai. And you carry on sitting there for as long as it takes until they allow you to study again. You carry on there and we have no problem with that at all. So they agreed. So he remained there smiling. This was his demand. Na aishe Prabhu shekane boshi hashe. No, not coming down, sitting there smiling. Sukriti shokho Sukha Sindhu Maje Bashe. Sukha Sindhu. And a Sindhu, an ocean of happiness, an ocean of joy. Sukriti Shakal. All of those Sukriti, highly pious souls who were there, who were able to see Nimai sitting on those pots. They're called Sukriti Shakal. All of the pious, extremely pious souls who were able to see that darshan of the Lord sitting on top of the pots. Shukha Sindhu Maje Bashe. They were merged in an ocean of joy. Shukha Sindhu Maje. So eventually, Sachinandani simply was sat there smiling. Eventually, Sachimata had to climb up on those pots herself. Right? That in itself is quite extreme. She climbed up on the pots herself, and she'll have to take bath too. She'll have to take bath too. She climbed. That's how strict the standard would be. So she climbed up on the pots, and then she brought him down. And while Nimai was taking a bath, then Jagannath Mishra returned. Mishrasthane Shachi Kohilen Kotar Mishrasthane. She went to Jagannath Mishra. Shachi Kohilen Kotar. She told him the whole story. Pori dena pai putra mone bhabe byata. Mone bhabe byata. We're not allowing our son to study, and therefore he's feeling pain in his mind. Pori dena pai putra mone bhabe byata. Mishrasthane Shachi Kohilon Kotar. So then the neighbors, they began speaking to Jagannath Mishra, and they said, "You're a very high-minded soul and very wise and experienced. You should choose an auspicious day and initiate your son with the sacred thread, and in this way begin his studies again." I mean, that's what the Brahmins advised. That's pretty good advice. You should initiate the Brahmins. They're all Brahmins. And they gave advice. You should choose an auspicious day. Initiate your son with the sacred thread, Brahmin thread. He hadn't had that yet, Jagya Shutra, but have that ceremony and then begin his studies again. Like, wow. What a sublime life is being described. So how did Jagannath Mishra respond to that advice? You could say it was almost chastisement. They scolded him. "Why have you done this? You've selected an auspicious day, you initiate him in the sacred thread, you begin his studies again." So they argued with him, they defeated him. So how did he respond to that? Did he try to defend himself? "I don't want this son, if he becomes a learned, look what happened to Vishwarup." He didn't. Did he try to defend himself like most people with an ego would? Mishra bole tomar paramabandhu gon tomar che bole she amar vachon. Mishra bole, he responded that tomar parama bandhu gon, you are my dear friends, param bandhu gon. Tomar che bole, the way you say she amar vachon, that's what I will do. That's what I will act. That's what I will say. That's my words. Whatever you say, that's my words. I consent to. So in this way, they planned again to allow Nimai to study again. So let's hear a little bit now about this Jagya Shutra Mahotsav, this ceremony when Nimai gets the sacred thread. And then also we'll hear about him being taken to the school of Gangadasa Pandit to begin his studies, and the way that Jagannath Mishra comes with Nimai and he offers his son, and we'll hear that description. Nirabhati Gupta Babe Prabhu Keli Kore Vaikuntha Nayak Nija Angane Bihare. Vaikuntha Nayak, the Lord of Vaikuntha, Nije Angane, in his own courtyard. Bihare, he plays. Gupta Babe, He's playing. Bhakti Goshti Shohito Gauranga Joy Joy Shunile Chaitanya Kota Bhakti Labh Hoy. Now the 8th chapter of Sri Chaitanya Bhagavad is beginning. Bhakti Goshti Shohito Gauranga Jai Jai Gauranga Jai Jai Bhakti Goshti Shohito, along with all of his devotees. Bhakti Goshti Shohito Gauranga Jai Jai Shunile Chaitanya Kota Bhakti Labh Hoy. If you hear these descriptions, Chaitanya Kota Bhakti Labh Hoy, you get devotion. A motto, Gaura Chandra Balla Roshe Bhalo Bhola Jagyo Pavitra Kal Ashiya Milila Jagyo Pavitra Kal, the time of Jagya Upavitra, of the ceremony of receiving the sacred thread, Jagya Upavitra Kal. That time had come. And a motto, Gaura Chandra Bhalla Roshe Bhola Bhalla Roshe, just Bhola. Srila Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in his commentary on Sri Chaitanya Bhagavad, he says that bhola means forgetting oneself. Forgetting oneself. Bhola. He says it comes from a corruption of bibhala. Bibhala. He says bhola. Forgetting oneself. And he also calls it maddened. And I think tomorrow night is Bholanat Shivratri. So here's mentioned Bhola. So in that mood, he's like mad. He's like completely Ballaroshe as a child. He's the Supreme Lord, Narayan Vaikuntha Nayak, the Lord of all Vaikuntha Aishwarya. But he's just completely absorbed in the play, in the drama. Ballaroshe Bhola. He's forgotten himself as a child, and so he can act in full this lila enjoy with his devotees. And now he's doing it in such a special way. Now we're going to hear the Jagyu Pavitra ceremony of him receiving the sacred thread. So Jagyu Shutra Putrer Dibare Mishrabar, the Dibare, to give the sacred Brahman thread. Bandhu Gondakiya Janila Nijaghare Bandhu Gondakila. Jagannath Mishra called all of his friends. And they all came, and they all immediately looked for some engagement and some small responsibility in the ceremony. So the ladies, they were Uludani. Ladies, Uludani. We don't, not enough. Uludani. Have to get an ecstasy. Uludani. Yeah. Ladies are doing Uludani. Uludani. So the ladies were they were doing Uludani in the ceremony, and then they were singing the glories of Krishna. And there were musicians who were playing on mridangas and shanai, and flute, and Brahmins chanting Vedic hymns, because they're different. Some were musicians, some were Brahmins, chanting Vedic hymns. And orators were offering verses in glorification. There's a special class, orators. Brahmins were chanting Vedic hymns, and the orators, they were like the making speeches, verses in glorification. In this way, Sachi Devi's house was filled with joy. Jagyashutrer Dariben Sri Gaura Sundor Shubha Jog Shakal Ailo Shachighor. Shubha Jog Shakal means the auspicious planets. Shubha Jog, Shakal. All of the planets were in a very auspicious position. Shubha Mashe, Shubha Dine, Shubha Kon Dhari Dorilen Jagyashutra Gauranga Sri Hari. Dorilen, he accepted the Jagyashutra, the sacred thread, Gauranga Sri Hari. And he accepted it when? On a Shubha Mashe, auspicious month, Shubha Dine, on an auspicious day, Shubha Khan, at an auspicious moment. Yeah. Dorilen Jagyashutra Sri Gauranga Sri Hari. Jagyashutra Gauranga Sri Hari. I mean, it's such beautiful poetry. It's such beautiful poetry. Ihahoilo Bhamanu Prabhu Gaurachandra. So then he's a young, you can imagine, a young child. Maybe he's 4 or 5 years old now, 5. And he's just wearing a new Brahman thread which looks so beautiful on his golden form. It appeared to be Ananta Shesh, incarnate Prakash. Ananta Shesh Prakash was the shining white Jagyopavitra Brahman thread on his golden body, his long dark hair, tied up in a knot. Hoilo Bhaman Rupa Prabhu Gaurachandra he Bhaman Rup. He appeared so much like Lord Bhaman Dev that's described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Or it's Hoilo. Hoilo means that he became Bhaman Rup, that form, that child, Brahman boy. Prabhu Gaurachandra Dekite Shabar Bare Param Anandai. Shabai Param Anandai, extreme joy, Dekite, seeing him in that form. Apurva Brahmana Teja, Deki Sharva Gone. All of the people could see an Apurva, unprecedented Brahmana Teja, spiritual potency. Naragyan tar kehu nahe kore mone naragyan. No, everyone was thinking that he's not a nara, a man. He's not a naragyan. No one was identifying him as being a man, a person, a human being. His body was just so transcendental in appearance. So after, as is the custom and as is the vidhi, the injunction, the shastric injunction, Shastra vidhim utrija avadate kamakarta nashashitim avapnoti nashukam naparam gatim. The shastric vidhi, as much as possible, we should follow because they're very conducive. We can get, if we don't follow, we won't get happiness or the supreme destination. If we do follow, that means we will get. We won't be in that category. We'll be in the category of those who do get happiness and the supreme destination. So here they're following as much as possible the proper steps in Shastra for this ceremony. And that's why we need Brahmins, that's why we need a Gurukul. Otherwise we'll just forget these things and we won't know what is the ceremony for putting the Brahman thread. Those, we won't know. Which should be done by those who are Brahmin, in Brahmin families. This is the culture. And after that ceremony, then the child, he goes begging. He goes begging. Hate danda kande jhuli Sri Gaura Sundor Bikha kore Prabhu Sharva Shevaker Ghor. Hate danda, carrying a stick of a tree. What type of a tree is it? Is it a bale tree or a stick of a tree? I don't know. But they come sometimes here in Mayapur. We're very fortunate to be residing in Sri Chaitanya-candra Mandir, ISKCON Mayapur, because here we can have experience of such things that the boys many times have come to my home with a stick and done that. They've just taken their Jagyupavitra and they're wearing it to begin Brahman studies. The boys in our Gurukul, they're taking this Jagyupavitra, Shamskar, just like Nimai did. And they come and beg and we give alms. And when they come to your home, we give them some food and some Lakshmi, mainly Lakshmi, but some refreshment also. So in this way, Hate Danda, with a stick in his hand, Kande Juli, on his shoulder, a begging bag that a brahmachari carries. Juli. Kande Juli, Sri Gaura Sundor. Bikha kore, he's begging Prabhu Sharva Shevaker Gore, in the homes of his own servitors. Sharva Shevaker Gore, his eternal servitor, devotees. Gauranga Shungi Gon Nitta, Gauranga Shungi Gone Nitta Shida Kori Mone. His eternal servants, his eternal loving devotees. They've all appeared in Navadip, in the homes of Brahmins. And he's begging in their homes from door to door. Char Jota Shakti Bikha Shabai Shantoshe. Everybody very, very satisfied and Santoshe. Satisfaction, satisfied. They gave donations into his bag. Prabhu Julite Dia Narigon Hashe. Narigon Hashe. The ladies were all smiling. Prabhu Julite Dia, when they put the bikha in his bags. And who were those ladies? Dvijapatni, Rup, Dori, Brahmani, Rudrani. Dvijapatni Rup, taking the form of Dvijapatni, means the wives of Brahmins in Navadip. Dvijapatni Rup, Dori, accepting the forms of the wives of Brahmins in Navadip. Brahmani Rudrani. Brahmani is the wife of Lord Brahma. Brahmani, and Rudrani is the wife of Lord Shiva. So they are Saraswati and Parvati. Assumed the forms of Dvija Patnis, of wives of Brahmins, to have this experience of Sachi Kumar with a shoulder bag, come to their door and say, Bhikha Dehi Ma, and give some donation. And who else? The Jota Pati Brata Muni, Bhagye Grihini, Jota Pati Brata Muni. All of the Patibrata means those who accept the vows of their husband. They are described as the chaste and dedicated wives. Patibrata, chaste and dedicated wives, all of them. Muni Bhagya Grihini, of the great Munis. The chaste and dedicated wives of the great Munis had also appeared there in the forms of Brahmanis in Navadip, like Aditi, Anushuya, Arundhati, and Devahuti. They were also present there in the forms of Navadip Brahmanis. Prabhu Koren, Sri Baman Rup Lila, Jiber Udhar, Lagi, Shokal Kela, all of this play of him accepting the Brahman thread and looking like Lord Baman Dev and the Saraswati and Parvati coming and the wives of the great Munis. This is just play for him. And he does this, he demonstrates this on this planet, Jiber Udhar Lagi, to deliver the conditioned souls. Jiber Udhar Lagi, Shokal Kela. All this play is just to deliver the conditioned souls. Because Srila Narottam Das Thakur, he sings that Shri Gaura Madhur Lila Jar Karne Prabheshila. Shri Gaura Madhur Lila, the sweet pastimes of Shri Gaur. Jar Karne Prabheshila, those whose ears they enter into. Hridor Nirmal Phelo Otar, the heart becomes pure. So he performs this lila so that we were attracted to hear about it, and in this way we become purified. We sang the Gaurange Gunete Jude Nita Lila Taresh Bude, Gaurange Gunete Jude, those who cry and they consider the qualities of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Gaurange Gunete Jude Nita Lila Taresh Bude, they can see these eternal pastimes of the Lord that he performs to deliver all of the conditioned souls. Jai Jai, Sri Baman Rup, Gaura Chandra, Dan deho uridoye tomar pada dondo. Please give me your lotus feet in my heart. Give them so I can keep hold of your lotus feet in my heart. Jai Shune Prabhur Jagyashutrer Grahan. Jai Shune. Whoever hears Prabhur Jagyashutrer Grahan, the Lord's accepting the sacred thread. Shaipai Chaitanya-candra Charane Sharan. Shaipai, they get Chaitanya-candra Charane Sharan, shelter at the lotus feet of Chaitanya-candra. Those who hear this description. Pretty good. And these pastimes, they're not even found in the Vedas. Animote, Vaikuntha Nayak, Shachi Gore. In this way, the Vaikuntha Nayak, the Lord of Vaikuntha, Shachi Gore, in the house of Sachimata. Bede Nigutha, Nanamoto Krida Kori, Bede Nigutha, pastimes that are not even found in the Vedas, he performs. Now, as we were explaining, he'd already been studying at home and he was already learned and showing wonderful intelligence. Gore Sharva Shastrer Bhujiya Shamihito. The Lord, he had completed his study of all the Sharva Shastra at home and understood. Goshti Maje Prabhu Porite Hoilo Chitto. But it seems that the Lord had a desire, Hoilo Chitto. He had a desire in his heart for Goshti Majje, Prabhu Porite, to study in the association of others. Goshti Majje, Prabhu Porite Hoilo Chitto, he had a desire. That's very significant, that he's the Supreme Lord, he's the ultimate Atmarama, Nanavaptam Navaptavyam, there's nothing I require, nothing I need. Nanavaptam Avaptavyam Bhateva Chakam Namekatapti Trishu Lokeshu Kinchana. Not within the whole Trishu Lokeshu Kinchana, nothing within the three worlds I need or desire. But here he has a desire. He comes to perform a pastime where he can have a desire to study in the company of others. Why is that? Because he can, in this way, he can enjoy his vidya brilliance. You need to have people you interact with that are astounded by his intelligence, not just at home alone. It's the interaction, and these peers of the Lord. Some are mentioned here actually. That Krishnananda, Murari Gupta, they mentioned that they begin to have these relationships early, very early in Mahaprabhu, just beginning his studies. And these devotees are mentioned. And subsequently Mahaprabhu and his students has relationships with students. A lot of students. He went to East Bengal and he had thousands of students. So these people that become this, you become the student of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. You're not an ordinary being. It's not by chance you just happen to enroll in the course at that time. No, they're eternal associates of the Lord. They're all eternal, there's no limit to them. And so all of these school students that he argues with and plays with on the Ganga, it's not that they're randomly there. They're there because they're all part of the Leela. They're all playing roles. He's arguing with them, defeating them. Now what about his teacher? Does he just scan on the Google and see who's available or who's the cheapest? No, he gets the best. He doesn't look for the cheapest. Who's the cheap? He doesn't compare costs. The best teacher. Nabadipa Ache Oddapak Shiromoni. The crown jewel amongst the teachers. Navadipa Ache. And Navadip, there is the Oddapak Shiromoni. Shiro is the head, Moni is the jewel. The jewel on the head of all the Oddaparks, of all the professors. Navadipayache. Jewel on the head. Gangadasa Pandit Jai Hainu Sandipani. He is none other than Sandipani Muni. who was the teacher of Krishna and Balaram in Avantipur, where in 64 days Krishna and Balaram learned 64 arts, and all the Dharma Shastras and the Vedic Shastras, and all of the sciences and the arts. And then they gave Dakina, they went and they returned his son. First they went to the ocean and he got Panchajanya, a conch, and then they went to the abode of Yamaraj and they brought the son back. So Sandipani Muni, what an exalted soul, what an extraordinary, he is Gangadasa Pandit here in Navadip Dham, where we're all situated this evening. And we have been for the year, most of us. What a fortune. So that Gangadasa Pandit who had the toll here in Navadip, he's Sandipani Muni. And now Vrindavandas Thakur describes, right? Let's hear how he describes this character and he glorifies him. He doesn't say, he has a very big house and he's got a lot of money and he has a very big house and he has a nice car. They don't say those things about him, which sometimes we hear. Where this is the level of people's consciousness to glorify. Oh, what a big house he has. He's glorified in this way, Vyakaran Shastre Ekanta Tattabit. Ekanta Tattabit. He is the extreme. Ekanta means the end of Tattabit, of knowing all of the conclusions and truths. Ekanta Tattabit of Vyakaran Shastra. Vyakaran Shastra. The scriptures of grammar. He's the extreme, he's the ultimate learned in the shastras of grammar. And Nimai desired to study from that Gangadasa Pandit. He desired to be his student. And there's many descriptions of Nimai Vidya Lila as a student and then becoming so prominent, Navadip Chandra, Dvijamani, the jewel of the Brahmins, and then becoming a Pandit, Nimai Pandit. We were hearing from Pramanjan Prabhu, Digvijay defeating. So there's many, the descriptions of the Lord in the Vidya Lila are very elaborate in Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. And here, just briefly, we'll mention a few things about his academic brilliance. A few things Vrindavandas Thakur will mention that we'll hear. So naturally, Nimai is going to become the student of the most respected Ekanta Tattabit, the extremely learned in all the conclusions of Vyakaran Shastra. Nimai is going to, very prestigious, Nimai is going to become his student. So Jagannath Mishra, he takes Nimai to introduce him to Gangadasa Pandit. Mishra Deki Gangadash Shambrame Utila. Shambrame, with great respect. Utila, he got up. Mishra Deki, when he saw Jagannath Mishra. Gangadasa Pandit. When he saw Jagannath Mishra, with great respect, he got up. Alingan kore ek ashone boshila. Alingan kore. They embraced. It doesn't mention there that they did that, but anyway, maybe great respect. So with great respect, that could be included with great respect. Sambrame. And then he got up also with great respect. And then he invited him to sit down and share an ashon. Ek ashone, on one seat. They shared a seat, and maybe like a bench or ashon, so a seat. And they shared the seat. That's very interesting also. How to deal with an equal, because they're equals. Gangadasa Pandit and Jagannath Mishra, he's also a learned scholar. So they're equals. So he offers him a seat and they're sitting together. After embracing him. Mishra bole, putra, ami dilo tamasthane. Mishra bole, Jagannath Mishra says, putra, ami dilo, I have given my son tamasthane to your hands and in your place. Padaibo shunaibai shakal apane. You teach him everything. You make him read and learn everything and you tell him everything. Shunaibo, padaibo. You make him learn and you tell him everything. Gangadasa bole, boro bhagyo she amar. Gangadasa bole, Gangadasa replies, boro bhagyo she amar. Boro bhagyo she amar. I am so fortunate. Boro bhagyo. You know bhagyo? Bhagyo means fortune. Boro bhagyo amar. I have such a huge fortune. I'm immensely fortunate. Boro bhagyo amar. Padaimu jodo shakti acha amar. Whatever ability I have, I will teach him. Whatever I know, I will teach him. Shishya-deki, seeing his disciple. Shishya-deki Parama Anande Gangadasa in extreme bliss. Putra pray Rakila Nijed Pash, just like a son. He kept him close, he kept him by his side all the time. Putra pray Kodira Rakila Nijed Pash. And Joto Bhakka Gangadasa Bodhite Koren, Joto Bhakka Pandidesh. Whatever he taught, Joto Bhakka, whatever he spoke, Joto Bhakka, Gangadasa Bodhite Koren, and taught Shukrit Shunile Matro Thakur Dorin. Shukrit Shunile Matro means only by hearing once. Shukrit Shunile Matro. Only by hearing once, Thakur Dorin. The Prabhu, Mahaprabhu Thakur Dorin, he was able to remember it. Remember, he was able to capture that. So this particular glorious feature of the Lord that later we hear is also glorified by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. When the Digvijay asked him, how is it you were able to memorize even one of those verses, which I recited like the mighty flow of Himalayan stream? And he said, just as someone has the ability to compose great poetry, so others have the ability to remember anything they hear just once. So he had that already from the beginning of his studies. Sukrit Shunile Matro Thakur Doren, just by hearing he would remember everything. Joto Bhakka Gangadasa Bodhite Koren, whatever Gangadasa Pandit said, whatever he taught. Sahasra Shishu Pore Joto John, there were thousands. Sahasra means thousands of thousands. Sahasra Shishu, students. Pore Joto John, however many you can count. At that time in the school of Gangadasa Pandit, Heno Karo Shakti Nahi Dibare Dushon. No one could find out of all of those thousands and thousands of students, not one of them could find a fault in anything that Nimai spoke. And this is just beginning his school. Dekhiya Abudha Bhuti Guru Harishit. When the Adbhuta Buddhi, Deki, when the spiritual master saw the Adbhut Buddhi, the extraordinary intelligence of his student, he smiled, Sharva Shisha Shreshla Kori Koryala Pujito, and he honored him, Koryala Pujito. He showed him honor, Koryala Pujito, Sharva Shisha Shreshto, by giving him the title of the topmost of all disciples. The best of all students. Sarva Shisha Shreshto Korila Pujito. He honored him with that title. So at that time, as we mentioned, the associates of the Lord, which we hear about and we know, they're very well-known associates, at a very early age, in the beginning of the studies, they established their relationships with him. Shri Murari Gupta, Shri Kamal Kanta Nam, Krishnananda Adi Jota, Goshti Pradhan, Krishnananda and Shri Kamalakanta and Shri Murari Gupta became associates of the Lord at that time. And Nimai was very happy going to school, and he was the top, whatever he heard, he would remember. There was no student that could defeat him in any way, and more of his scholastic brilliance is described in other places by Srila Vrindavan Thakur. But now, actually, we'll conclude our discussion this evening with hearing about the departure of Jagannath Mishra. the departure of Jagannath Mishra. So, before he departs, he has an amazing dream. So let's hear about the dream that he had. Daive ek din shopna dekhi Mishra bhar Hari she bishad baro hoilo antar. So one day he saw a dream, and Hari she bishad, it both gave him great joy and great sorrow. Shopna dekhi Shtabapari Dandabat Kori. So seeing that dream, he Dandavat Kore, he bowed down on the ground, and Stabapari, he offered prayers. Hey Govinda, Nimai Rahuk Mor Ghore. Hey Govinda, Nimai Rahuk Mor Ghore. Hey Govinda, you allow Nimai to stay at home. After seeing this dream, pays his obeisances, prays, hey Govinda. And Sachimata sees him praying in this way. Why have you all of a sudden prayed for benedictions from the Lord? Today I had a dream, answered Jagannath Mishra. I had a dream. I saw Nimai with his sika shaved off. Right? For the Brahmins, they have a shika. We heard in the previous chapters that Jagannath Mishra, they arranged in the head shaving ceremony. He had a sika. So he sees Nimai without the sika. Why without the sika? Why did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sannyas shave off his sika, which he did? Sridham Sri Thakur explains that was because of the influence of the Buddhists in India. Because they influenced the Mayavad, the Vedantists, so therefore the Vedantists had bald head, completely bald head. So, and this is a sannyasi. And Mahaprabhu, he took sannyas in Bharati Sampradaya, Ekdandi sannyas. So he sees him like this, and as a sannyasi. And he mentions, the first thing he mentions is the bald head, because then that means that they're a sannyasi. Because the Adbhut sannyasi besh, kahane na jai, Adbhut sannyasi besh, this extraordinary Adbhut, this is Adbhut Mandir. Okay, so Vrindavan Thakur, just see this is Adbhut sannyasi dress. Kahane na jai, I cannot describe it. Kahane na jai, it cannot be described. How beautiful his sannyas dress was. Hashe nache kande, Krishna boli sharba dai. Krishna boli sharba dai. All the time, hashe nache kande. Laughing, dancing, crying. This is what Jagannath Mishra saw in his dream. Okay, so he said it was both amazing and sorrowful. Well, wouldn't you be amazed by a dream like that? You see Sachinandam with his shaven head and Adbhut Sannyasi Vesh, and he's laughing, he's dancing, he's crying, Krishna Bali, and chanting the name of Krishna constantly, in a pretty extraordinary dream. And who's with him? Advaita Acharya Adi, Jota Bhaktagan, Advaita Acharya Adi, headed by Advaita Acharya, Jota Bhaktagan, all of these devotees, Jota, all of them, Jota Bhaktagan. Nimai Bediye Shobe Koren Kirtan, around and around Nimai, they're all doing Kirtan. This is his dream. Kakano Nimai, Vashe Vishnul Katai. Sometimes I saw Nimai in the dream, because his dreams just can go from one scene to another without an interim. So here he's in the Sankirtan, in a Advaita, and as many devotees as you can imagine are circling him at one moment, and then the next minute he's sitting on the throne, on the Singhasan of Lord Vishnu. Charan Tuliya Deho Shabari Matai. And he's lifting his feet and putting his feet on the heads of all the devotees in the dream. Jagannath Mishra Singh. So who's there? Who's amongst the devotees that he's putting his feet on their heads? Who's amongst the devotees on the throne of Vishnu? Chaturmukha, Pachamukha, Sahasra Badane. No, Sahasra Badan. Chaturmukha, Panchamukha, Sahasra Badan. Chaturmukh means Lord Brahma. Panchamukh, Lord Shiva. Sahasra Badan, the 1,000-mouthed Anantashesh. Shabai, Gayan, Joy, Joy Shri Sachinandan. I'll read that again. Chaturmukh, Panchamukh, Sahasra Badan. Shabai Gayen Jai Shri Sachinandan. Jai Shri Sachinandan. Well, Chaturmukha, Lord Brahma is chanting. Panchamukh, Lord Shiva. Sahasrabhadan, 1,000-mouthed Lord Anantashesh. Shabai Gayen, they're all calling Jai Shri Sachinandan. This was in his dream. His dream. I mean, this is what a dream. What a dream. Krishnanand Prabhu, just going to share with you what this now you came at this moment. This is something like it's Ved Nigutha. It's not even revealed in the Vedas. It's Ved Nigutha. I just wanted to share with you because you came at that moment. Vrindavandas Thakur, what he's saying, Ved Nigutha, it's not even found in the Vedas. That just before his departure from this world, Jagannath Mishra had a dream. And he's describing this dream. And in the dream, he saw Lord Gaudhari in beautiful sannyas dress with his head shaven, doing kirtans surrounded by Advaita Acharya and so many other devotees. And he's sitting on the throne of Lord Vishnu. He's raising his lotus feet and putting them on the heads of devotees. And who's there? Chaturmukha, Panchamukha, Sahasrabhadan. Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Sahasravadan, 1,000-mouthed, Anantashesh, Shabai Gayan, Jai Shri Sachinandan. Shabai Gai, they're all singing Jai Shri Sachinandan. This is such beautiful poetry. Vrindavandas Thakur. Maha Anande, Chaturdike, Shabe, Shtuti Kore, Maha Anande, in unlimited, in great bliss. Chaturdike, in all directions. Shabai Shtuti Kore, they're all glorifying Nimai. This is what he saw in his dream. Dekhiya Amar Bhaye, Vyaka Nahishpure. In seeing this, I was not able to speak anything. All of these great sages and exalted beings, they're all chanting Jai Sachinandan and glorifying him in four directions with various prayers, and I was not able to say anything in the dream. Kota kone deki, kota koti lok lie. Sometimes I saw kota koti lok with millions of people lie, taking them. Nimai bhulen. Proti nagare nachai. I'll read that again. Kota kone deki, koti lok lai, nimai bhulen proti nagare nachai. Proti nagare nachai. He's dancing from village to village. Koti lok ni, with millions of people in the dream. Chaturdike Shuni Matro Nimai Shtuti. All I could hear was glorification of Nimai in all directions. Nilachale Jai Sharva Bhaktir Shamiti. They were heading for Nilachal, Jagannath Puri. Aishwapna Deki Chintapai Sharva Thai. Jagannath Mishra, he says to Sachimata, seeing this dream, Chintapai Sharva Thai, I'm constantly in anxiety. Virakta Hoya Pache Putra Bahirai. Putra Bahira, he will leave home, Virakta Hoye, becoming detached. So that was the dream that he had. And this is the state of consciousness of Jagannath Mishra. And Sachimata says it's just a dream. Nimai will stay at home. He's only thinking of his books, he doesn't think of anything else. And in this way, a motto, Param Udhar Dui John. In this way, the Paramuddha, the extremely broad-minded Duijon, Jagannath Mishra and Sachimata, Nana Kota Kohe, Putra Sneher Karan, Nana Kota Kohe, saying different things, Putre Sneha, out of affection for their son. Henumote Kodudin Take Mishra Ba, for a few days longer. Jagannath Mishra remained. Antodhan hoilo, Nitya Shuddha Kolebar, Antodhan hoilo, and then he disappeared. Nitya Shuddha Kolebor. Nitya Shuddha Kolebor. In the purport, Srila Siddhanta Shastri Thakur says that his body is completely transcendental, Jagannath Mishra's body. And so Antudan Hoilo, he disappeared, Nitya Shuddha Kolebar, and just carried on, entered into eternal form of Jagannath Mishra. So in this way we see the scene of Jagannath Mishra leaving, and therefore it helps us to understand the attachment that Sachimata has for Sachinandan. Because Vishwarup took sannyas, and then Jagannath Mishra left the world. So all she has is Nimai, all she has is Nimai. And she completely absorbed herself in Nimai and service to him. And she would faint if for a few moments she was not able to see him. and Sachinandan said, Shuno mata, monikichu na chinta tumi. Na chinta tumi. Don't worry, ma. Shokal tomar ache, jori ache ami. If I'm here, shokal tomar ache, then you have everything. Don't worry, I'm here, you have everything. Soon I will bring you a gift which is not even obtainable by like demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. I mean, the Supreme Lord is in our home. Henomote Navadipe Vipra Shishu Rupe. Henomote, in this way. Navadipe, in Navadip. Vipra Shishu Rupe. Vipra Shishu. A Brahmin child. Rupe, in the form of a Brahmin child. Achin Vaikuntha Nat. Shranubab Shukhe. In this way, the Vaikuntha Nat, the Lord of Vaikuntha, Swa Anubhab Shukhe, enjoys. This is all his own leela that he designs and he enjoys with his devotees in Navadip Dham. So we'll conclude. Thank you very much. Srila Vrindavan Thakur ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Shamaveta Go Bhakta Vrinda ki, Shishinita Go Udishitanata Pramanandi.
His Grace Atul Krishna Prabhu ki. Thank you very much.